Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lashina Williams, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. And the more that I think about our guests and the topic that we're going to be discussing today, I'm just like super excited and just want to get straight to that. So, with that, today we have Dr. Angela White Jones, who we're going to be diving into the conversation of AI and how this impact nonprofits and the work that we do on a day-to-day basis. So join me in welcoming Dr. Angela White Jones. Hello, hello.
Hi, Lashina. How are you doing?
So good and excited to have you back on with us.
Me
If
too.
we could just start with just a little bit about you and how you entered the nonprofit arena, and then we'll dive into the topic of AI and how that impacts the work that nonprofits are doing now.
Excellent. Sure. I am currently the program director of the Masters of Nonprofit Management program at the University of Central Florida, where I'm also full time faculty there in the School of Public Administration. I have been working in nonprofits in some way, shape, or form for probably the last, I'm adding it up, doing some quick math, for a little over 20 years now, primarily in the area of grants, contracts, and progressive experience in that subfield, but also I've worked in the development department. So I've seen a lot of fundraising, major gifts, bequests, events, and how events have turned from your traditional galas to virtual events and some hybrids and all of that that comes along in all spaces. Nonprofit work has been my career and my life. I'm happy to be doing it and on a more academic level and teaching my students some of the practical ways that we can help facilitate the goals that we have for our missions for nonprofits. So I'm really happy to be speaking with you today and talking to everyone out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So let's dive into the topic of AI and its uses within nonprofits and what nonprofits should keep in mind. It's like it feels to me like one day we just blinked and all of a sudden like everything is surrounded by AI, whether it's writing emails, everything you do is starting to integrate AI. So I would love to hear your input and tips for organizations when they get ready to take advantage, which I'm sure plenty of them are using it, but the do's and don'ts of doing so.
Absolutely. You're correct. AI is both a challenge and a blessing for a lot of nonprofits. The challenges are that it is quick and it is ever changing. And even people who were early adopters of the artificial intelligence back, years ago are finding that they still need to keep up with what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of moving parts right now, and that can be very overwhelming, particularly when there are so many other things as a nonprofit professional that you are thinking about and that you are trying to get a handle on. However, what can be beneficial about utilizing AI is that if you do it correctly and ethically, it can save time in a space. It can also help understand and break down some of the ideas and attributes in a proposal, some of the guidelines, particularly a proposal guidelines that are very large, that have a lot of paperwork, can help you take that document and really break it into bite-sized chunks so that it is understandable, digestible, and that agencies can really provide and produce a pathway to either getting the proposal done or aiding in the reporting process once the grant is completed or in that particular area. So there's a lot of, I think, um, changes and challenges with it. I would say the do's are to just jump in, honestly.
Mhm.
It can be intimidating for people to wonder where to go, where to start. I think the best thing to do is to research the platforms that are right for you. You will find that there are free AI programs like Copilot on your Word document that you can utilize. And then there are some that you could pay a pretty significant amount for, as far as taking a look at your pros. You want to look at what is, like I said, what is correct for you and for your agency and for your budget. You also maybe want to talk about with your board or with your team, what do you actually want to use it for? So, are you using it to help think of ideas when it comes to proposal writing? Are you using it for reporting? Are you using it for data gathering and collection? Are you using it for marketing and advertising? There's an AI mechanism for all of those subject matters, and so you want to sit down and think, what do I want to use it for? Because a Copilot AI tool is not necessarily going to do the same as you needing a marketing tool. So
Mhm.
that's something that you want to take a look at as well. The don'ts are pretty big, and they usually all revolve around ethics and
Mhm.
ethical use. And that is something that, and, we can talk about this later, but that is something that I think is always where, you know, the rubber hits the road, where your early adopters and your people who are like, I don't like it, I don't want to do it. That's where the tension rests, are in ethics and in ethical use of AI. And I always tell my students, when using or when thinking about the use of AI, number one, you need to attribute and to share the fact that you did use AI. Do not make
Mm.
as if that were your words or solely your work. Even if you took your work and then put it in the blender, if you will, and said it's popping out something else, you still need to attribute the fact that there was another mechanism that did some of that work for you. So you have to have an attribution associated with the documentation to let people know that AI was used. And there's several ways now, we're seeing that the attribution aspect of AI, and how to credit an AI platform, is out there as well. So you can research and find how specific you need to go, depending on what you've done with AI as far as attribution is concerned. The other ethical part is that what I would caution is that AI is not a tool in grants that are necessarily designed to write it for you. And what can
Mhm.
happen is that a lot of nonprofits can take advantage of the tool, but almost overuse it. So it sounds rote, it
Mhm.
sounds robotic, it doesn't sound like you, it doesn't sound like your organization, it doesn't even sound like a person wrote it. And you want to be careful of that. You can have something that, you know, statistically, with grammar and with syntax and with structure, is 100% out of the ballpark.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's clean. It is, edited well, but it still sounds a bit
Mhm.
clinical, and it doesn't sound like you. And that's what I caution against nonprofits doing, is making that voice an AI, and where it doesn't sound like you wrote it, and that the passion, because there's no substitute for passion in writing. And anyone who has reviewed a grant proposal, anyone who has reviewed any kind of prose, will tell you, especially ones that aren't necessarily academic or clinically based, but more, even more fiction or storytelling. That's a lot of the things that we do as grant writers. We tell a story, but if the passion isn't there, then it can leave you cold a
Mm.
bit. So you can use AI for things like, goodness, this prompt is asking me for something and I'm just stuck, or I've had a long day and I can't quite, switch my mind from here to there. You can use prompts to kind of get the ideas going and to say, oh, okay, that's how I can
Mhm.
begin this, or I'm stuck on how to actually say what I want to say in the context that I want to provide it. That's very helpful from start to finish. And you just put in the prompt itself, maybe from the RFP or the RFA, and a couple other words about your nonprofit, your mission, and just let it spit it back out. And then you're like, cool, cut, paste, put it on there. then it's not really you. You can do it,
Mhm.
but it's not speaking to the passion that you yourself have and that what you know you can do for your nonprofit. So I caution, like, number one, against using AI to do 100% or even the majority of the work. Let it be a prompt tool. Let it be helpful with language. You know, AI can be really, really great for organizations that have a language
Mhm.
barrier. So if you are, for example, someone who is, heavily a Spanish speaker, or your nonprofit is, it can be an excellent tool for interpretation and for, again, laying out the prose that you want in another language that you are having to submit it for. So it's really helpful in those particular areas. But I always just caution against having it be the fallback for your writing, because absolutely nothing substitute your passion, your knowledge, and the tone of a human being writing it, even if there are a couple of minor mistakes and it's not as
Mhm.
clean as you'd want it to be.
Love that. Wow, you shared a lot of information and a lot to think about. And one that stands out to me is that attribution piece. And I know that there's someone just like me. I'm like, oh, I never really thought about that in the sense of, let's say you give AI your words, like you have something, you have your draft, you just need it cleaned up and, like you want it to be more engaging or more warmer or those type of things. Um, so at what point is it like you need to it's your words, you're just saying clean this up for me and check the grammar, like a grammar check and all of that. At what point would you
Right.
say that line of you need to say, hey, AI, help me do this? Because if it was a grant writer or someone else that was editing, you wouldn't necessarily, say they help me do it kind of. At what
Right.
point, yeah, so what's that line between, this is something you need to make sure everyone knows this is AI generated versus you're okay because it's your words, they're just cleaning it up. And what is that line?
Yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, the line is probably going to be different for
Mhm,
everyone. There are probably going to be people who are watching this right now that is like, you got to attribute every single solitary
mhm,
thing, even if you use it for editing. And then there's going to be people that are going to be like, why? Like you said, it's my words.
mhm,
It's no different than using an editor. It's no different than, asking my spouse to come read it over. Like, it's not, it's no different than a writing partner or anything to that effect. So I would say, when in doubt, from a proposal
mhm,
standpoint, always read the RFPs. We're starting to see, not everyone does it right now because, again, we're still new, but we are starting to see more and more funders put, if they want and if they will allow
mhm,
AI on the grant applications, and if they do, how they want it attributed and how they want it seen. And so always defer back to your RFPs. On a technical level, if it's not there, it's probably fair game.
mhm,
Could I also say in good conscience and advise the fact that there may be reviewers who get it? This is why, if it's grammar and if it's small things, it probably won't be noticed, because, again, it's still a tone of your voice. It's still a way that you know that it's a
mhm,
human. But I was just talking to somebody from a different organization, about the fact that, like, when you write even
mhm,
emails, there are people who are using AI to write emails and email
mhm,
responses to each other. And you can tell that, like, this is not you talking. I know you, or I know how people relate. This is not you. You use something. You used a chat GPT. You used an AI bot to write me this very professional sounding email, but you used another
mhm,
source, if you will. And even though I can't, you know, prove it, which again goes into the gray area with ethics, it can provide a sour taste in people's mouths if they're like, I feel like this just, it doesn't sound like a human. So if it's something small where you're just cleaning up grammar, then I mean, honestly, I would say just run a spell
Mhm.
check and run a grammar check at school, and, that's that. Um, but if you're doing that, it is likely that your tone is still going to sound like a person did it. But the overuse of it can get you into trouble. And it can happen where reviewers can look at it and, in their estimation, whether they are correct or not, and we don't know because there's no attribution to it or anything like that if you choose not to do it. But the reviewer could say, this sounds, this doesn't sound like a person
Mhm.
wrote it. If it's too much, I'm going to make my decision based off of
Mhm.
there. Again, we're getting into some slippery slopes where it's, and grant, I will say, grant writing and the decision making were never, it was always an arbitrary
Mhm.
process. It was always one where it's dependent on the committee, it's dependent on the person.
Mhm.
And so it's the same way. And it's just kind of feeling out folks and how people are going to respond to it. I do hope and ask for, if you're giving money away, that you and your committee do take a look and see what it is and how you want to utilize AI to make that process more fair for applicants. And then they won't have any worries of, should I attribute? Can I
Mhm.
not attribute? Should I utilize anyway? Can I not? If you, as the funder, make it expressly clear what you will and will not allow, it's much easier for applicants to follow those rules. And it's much easier, I think, for the funder to make those decisions. So my answer is kind of all over the place, but it basically comes up to an it
Mhm.
depends on, if you should attribute or not, if there's space even to attribute, because some things are very character driven. And so you might not even have the space to say, to put those lines on there in the
Mhm.
paragraph. So I would say use best judgment, use best ethical judgment, and really review the RFP, RFA that you're going for, to see if they have given you any sort of keys. And if in doubt, if you're really, really serious about it, you can always call them and ask. They may be like, I have no idea.
Mhm.
I don't know. Do whatever you want to do, or what have you. It may be something new that they didn't even think of, honestly. Um, but yeah, those are it's one of those gray areas of it. It's depends. So good question. Maybe next year I'll have a
No,
better
I love it. I love it,
answer.
and I love that you shared some things to consider. Um, when it comes to attribution. So I love that you included that, and there's so much different thoughts because when you talked about the AIs not sounding human, and it's funny because I was just talking to someone the other day, and I'm like, it feels like now it's a matter of just our robots talking to each other. Like if I want to communicate with you, you have your AI, you might put a couple letters and then it's now doing a full email and then mine's talking back to you telling you what I'm saying, and I'm like, it's losing that human connection. So one of the things I'm taking from this too is that we don't want to lose that. Like, yes, we can use AI as a tool. It can help get thoughts off the ground, but not losing that human, that personality, that portion when using it, whether it's in grant writing, emails, or wherever and however else you might use it. Not removing the human, especially in a field like nonprofit. We're used to connections, people, connections, relationships, which is a little different than some fields where you can get away with just straight AI, the whole experience. But we like to know that we hear each other and, how's everyone doing? We like that, like, human factor, I guess you could say, across the field. Even when making decisions on vendors and stuff we're going to work with, we normally also we're part of the team that's probably considering, how do they make me feel? Do they feel like someone? Which where some industries, they're like,
Right.
forget the feeling, they're just looking at the papers and what it has to say,
Exactly.
kind of thing. So one thing I'm taking away is not losing the human part, the part that makes us the sector that we are. Hmm.
That's right. It's like, don't eliminate the personality for
Hmm.
perfection. You know, that's what we don't want to do. And you hit the nail on the head. There are industries where AI can be tremendously helpful, and where like the personality part of it never came into play to begin
Mhm.
with, honestly. And so they're not losing much of that. But in our industry, like you said, it is really dependent on connection and on collaboration and on, understanding our needs and our goals and what works and what doesn't work for our communities and the people that we
Mhm.
serve. When you take that out in service of something that's very
Mhm.
polished and, it's clean and it's buttoned up and all of that kind of stuff, when you in a way when you take out a little bit of the mess, then
Mhm.
it's not us anymore. It's not, and again, it's not to say that nonprofit professionals are unpolished people. Of course we are. Some of the most polished people that I know work in our sector. But it's again, it's the
Mhm.
connection. And sometimes the connection's gonna be put in a face that's gonna be a little rocky. It's gonna look a little different. It's gonna be colorful. It's gonna be beautiful. It is gonna be
Mhm.
messy. It's gonna be strange. It's gonna be all of those things. And at the moment, I mean, again, depending on what tool you pay
Mhm.
for, because I do know that there are some AI tools that if you want to invest a significant amount of money and of coin into them, it can get you or try to get you as close to that. But truth be told, nothing, there can't be, things operate on prompts and on development and on your own intellectual property, your
Mhm.
own IP, that you have. It can't be done without you. So, really, taking that into consideration, I am for always what will help a nonprofit. Again, if it's something that takes a very large proposal that's like this thick
Mhm.
in application land and makes it where it's like, oh, I can digest, I can cut and paste, I could do this. I know what they're asking for. If it, saves some time where it's like I'm not thinking for hours on end how to begin this. It's just, fostering a little bit of a start, then that's one thing. If it's, helping people who, have language barriers to, better create proposals where they can
Mhm.
win, and be competitive, then those are the positive aspects of it. But when we overuse it, like
Mhm.
anything we do, when there's an overuse and over reliance on it, then that's where the trouble can start to occur.
So, a question I have for you, and I was just thinking about, so pretty much I had a conversation internally with our team. We were considering adding the to your overall workspace, or we use Google Workspace. So through the workspace you can add on a Gemini, a AI to be across everything
Mhm,
you do. It'll be in your inbox, it'll be in your files, it'll be like everything you do, it'll be there to assist you, summarize things for you, and so
mhm.
forth. But then there's that part that of the little fear that it's going to be overused. So what recommendation do you have to organizations that's going, like, let's say they're on the track, it might be a smaller organization getting ready to, or larger, getting ready to roll out, hey, AI as a tool, as a part of their overall, the way that they do work on a regular basis. What recommendations would you have for them so that it does not get overused, and the things like you're sharing today is communicated across the board to ensure that that human factor doesn't get lost?
Absolutely. I think it is tool, like picking your tool, to see what your tool is going to do. So is it a
Mhm.
summary tool? Is it a tool that's designed to, write materials, that kind of thing? I think it's also about sitting down and putting in place some actual rules and creating now with this. There's some excellent things that you can do. You can use it for summaries. Maybe it's gonna help with calendar. Maybe you can help create
Mhm.
data. I've seen some beautiful graphics where, like, if there's no one in your office that's really graphically
Mhm.
inclined, you can use it for that and make some really nice graphics. But again, you know, I say that knowing that there's graphics that you can get. And then at the same time, there's a graphic designer that is like but I can do this as well if you were to use that funding
Mhm.
for me. So it's always, it's for me, it's a weird push pull of like when to use it and then when to outsource it to actual
Mhm.
people, and also be realistic that like a smaller nonprofit is like, I'd love to outsource it to people, but I don't
Mhm.
have that yet. And I can't even get the money until I, you know, have the event or have the
Mhm.
donor base to give me that. It is a very push pull, and you have to be, and that tension
Mhm.
is real. So I think it's a matter of, it really does depend on the organization, and you have to sit down and say, what is it that you want to do? What are we trying to get out of? If we want to use AI, can is it just more of a summation feature that wraps up notes
Mhm.
and like our meeting, and it's like, I don't feel like taking these meeting minutes, let someone else do it, and it's great. I think AI for meeting minutes
Mhm.
is pretty good because I know next to 0 people who
Mhm.
love taking minutes
Yep.
on meetings. So, for that, like, that will work. But for, like, a graphic designer, maybe it's more of like, let's use this for small things, and then once we get our donor base up and we can save up, let's put money in the budget to
Mhm.
outsource this to a smaller company or small business, and support that person as well. So, you're using it to make gains, but again, you're eventually circling back to the human aspect. But I think, organizations have to decide what they want and who they want to be at the advent of AI, and how, and then what those rules are. Do you have guidelines for how people
Mhm.
utilize it? And if those guidelines are not followed, are there consequences? That's going to be up to every single, job and employer to make those determinations. And there are going to be people out there that are listening to us, like I said, that are early adopters and they're like, everything's been
Mhm.
great and we're fine. We're going to use it more. And then there are people out there who are going to watch this and are going to be like,
Mhm.
absolutely not. We will not be using it. And if I catch anyone using it, like there will be, work related,
Mhm.
issues and steps that we will have to take. So but I do think it, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be, off of one person. I do think a discussion by committee
Mhm.
is worthwhile, and creating rules and guidelines are worthwhile, and being flexible with said rules and guidelines, I think are worthwhile. This is the interesting thing about AI. It's all of a, it
Mhm.
depends what your feelings are type of role that you play.
Love it. So thank you for sharing all of that. So what does this look like in the new curriculum that's being developed, in the sense of, if you're part of the nonprofit arena, like, is there any continuing education opportunities around this? What does this look like, or any other programs that UCF is offering that, if anyone wants to tap into to just grow professionally, if you could share some of that information.
Absolutely. So we believe that our program is going to be on the cutting edge of AI. Right now, one of my colleagues, Dr. Maritza Concha, is leading an AI for innovation application. And she already has a cohort that has started working with her from the summer, and I think she will advertise the next cohort next year. So please follow us on all of our socials for School of Public Administration, for the Center for Public and Nonprofit Management. Look us up also with the School of Public Administration and the Nonprofit Masters of Nonprofit Management program for more information. But she has that cohort. We're also involving a little bit more of AI jams, which for Orange and Osceola. We just wrapped up that plan this year, and we're hoping to open up applications for agencies who want to join us. If you are operating in either of those two counties, we're hoping to open up applications in the probably late winter of 2026 for those two cohorts. So be on the lookout for that. We're also we're in the stages of hopefully being able to approve a couple of AI related courses for both our undergraduates at UCF, as well as our graduates in our master's program, so that students can get, again, a deeper sense academically of AI and what that means for the workforce, what that means as far as utilization in grant writing and volunteer management with storytelling, etc. So if you're interested in any of those, please look me up. If you're interested in our graduate certificate, in our master's program, I think we're really going to be on that cutting edge of engaging in that
Awesome.
work.
So where can people find you if they want more information?
Yes, so two places are probably the best is either on LinkedIn. You can look me up at Angela White Jones on LinkedIn, and you'll see my picture there. So it's pretty easy to find me there. You can also send me an email at angela.white-jones at ucf.edu. Hopefully I'll end up getting my website off the ground at
Hmm.
some point. That was a that was supposed to
Hmm.
be a task that I would have done this summer, and then it's good to be
Hmm.
busy, so it just kind of got pushed a little bit, and at a point it will get done. But you can reach out to me there, again, angela.white, like the color, hyphen Jones at ucf.edu.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back on. Hopefully, you'll join us again in the future. I love these conversations with you. So, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it as
Of
always.
course. And thank you all so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. Bye, everyone.
Bye.